Hi friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. My name's Jonathan. I make luxury videos, unboxings, and reviews. And today we have a collaboration video with my friends Mandy at Just One More Bag and Jay from JJ Lux. So let's get into it. Before I get started with today's video, I would really appreciate it if you can hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help my channel grow. I make videos every other day on Louis Vuitton and luxury fashion. So if you like that kind of content or simply want to see more of me, then definitely hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. So this video is in collaboration with my friend Mandy at Just One More Bag 01 and Jay from JJ Lux, and we are asking ChatGPT to rank our luxury collections. And so I thought this was a very great idea, and I'm very curious as to what ChatGPT has to say about my Louis Vuitton collection. So let's get into it. So I do have my laptop here. I do apologize. I will be looking down and reading off what ChatGPT has to say. But essentially, what we were tasked to do was to send ChatGPT the following prompt and list out your designer handbags so that way it can categorize your bags into the 5 categories that we've selected. And so the prompt was, can you rank my luxury handbag collection and select the top 7 forever bags? Score each bag from 1 to 10 in the following categories. Category 1 being brand prestige and heritage. Category 2 being a versatility. Is it a day to night kind of bag? The styling of it. Category number 3 was the capacity, comfort, and usability. Category number 4 was the resale value and long term durability. And finally, category number 5 was the cultural and iconic status of the bag. So I listed my entire designer handbag collection into ChatGPT, and here is what they had to say. So ChatGPT said this was a strong collection, very LV heavy with a few Goyard pieces, and it mixes true classic with trend and novelty items. I'll score each bag across your 5 categories, then rank your top 7 forever bags, the ones most likely to stay relevant, wearable, and value long term. So the first bag that they scored, and I do have a total of 16 handbags that I did put into ChatGPT. And so I do have more than 16 handbags, but for example, Pochette accessoires, I kind of lumped them into one. Nano Speedies, I lumped into one. So that way I can get through this video without being it over an hour. And so the first bag that it scored was going to be my Sacadors Packle, and that is this bag right here. And so it gave for prestige, it gave it an 8. Versatility, it gave it a 6. Practicality, a 7. Resale, a 6. And its iconic status, a 5, for a grand total of 32 out of a possible 50. So the next handbag that ChatGPT ranked is going to be my Michael Kors Jet Set logo backpack. Absolutely love this bag. I've been using it a lot more for work, especially when I need to bring in my laptop. However, ChatGPT says that its prestige level is a 5, its versatility is a 7, practicality is an 8, resale value is a 4, which I can't argue with, and iconic status is unfortunately a 4 as well, with a grand total of 28 out of 50. So this one barely broke halfway through the score. So I'm wondering if there's a bag in my collection that will score less than this one. Not off to a great start with only the second bag being ranked. So the next handbag is going to be my Speedy 30 in the bandolier, and it ranked pretty well. It got prestige at 9, versatility at 9. Can't argue with it there. Practicality is an 8. Resale value is a 9, and its iconic status is a 10. Obviously, this was a very, very great score, and it got a total of 45 out of 50. So I'm wondering if there's a bag in my collection that ChatGPT thinks is better than this one. So moving on to the next bag, which is the mini shopper tote. So the mini shopper tote unfortunately didn't rank as high as I thought it would. And so for prestige, it got 8, versatility, it got 6, practicality, it got 6, resale, it got 6, and iconic, it got 6. So it seems like it's a very medium ranked bag across my whole collection with a grand total of 32 out of 50. So it's not the worst. I think the Stack of Doors did get the same score. So very interested to see if there is any other bags that are going to be able to come closer to the Speedy 30. I'm very curious to see what ChatGPT ranks the P9 just because those bags are very similar to one another. So I'm wondering if the size difference is going to make the scores better or worse. Moving on to bag number 5, which is going to be my paint can. So looking at the paint can score, it actually did a lot better than the Michael Kors backpack, which I thought was kind of surprising given the fact that I didn't think it would be as versatile and practical, which I can see from the score. So prestige, it gave it an 8. Versatility, it gave a 4. Practicality, it gave a 3. Resale and iconic status both got a 7. So a grand total of 29 out of 50. So this is slightly better than my Michael Kors backpack. I feel as though the resale and iconic status is what saved it. However, the versatility and practicality of the bag completely understand where ChatGPT is coming from just because it is not the most practical or versatile bag in my collection. So I can understand why it got those scores. But 29 out of 50 is not as bad as I thought it would be. So moving on to the Nano Speedy, more specifically in the reverse monogram from the artist collaboration. It got a total score out of 39 out of 50, which I thought was a very great score. So prestige was a 9, versatility was a 7, practicality was a 5, which is quite interesting to see. And then resale and iconic status both got 9s. And unfortunately, I did lie. I did have the Nano Speedy put twice for some reason, but my Pochette accessoires I only put in once. So I will read out the score for the Murakami Nano Speedy, but I will not consider that as a score just because, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I only wanted to have one bag represent the entire collection. And so for the Nano Speedy, I chose this one. However, in terms of the score for the white multicolor Nano Speedy, it actually did slightly better than the artist collaboration, with Prestige coming in at 10, same with resale, and same with iconic status, versatility being 6, and practicality being 5. So for a total of 41 out of 50, which is super close to the Speedy 30. So this bag almost beat it out, but compared to this Nano Speedy and the artist collaboration, there's only 2-point differences, with I think it was the practicality or and the versatility being the 2-point differences between the scores. Moving on to handbag number 8, which is going to be my Pochette accessoires. So I decided to make the classic monogram Pochette accessoires the one that represented the other ones in my collection, just because this one is still currently available on the website. The other ones are not. They're more limited edition pieces. And so I didn't want those ones to kind of skew the results. So I chose the Pochette accessoires in monogram, and this one did surprisingly very well. And so for prestige, it got a 9. For versatility, resale, and iconicness, it got a 10. And then practicality, it got a 7. So overall, this bag got 46 out of 50, which is now dethroning my Speedy 30 according to ChatGPT. This bag is currently ranked number 1 in my forever pieces. And so I'm curious to see if there's a bag that will get close to 50 or even closer to 50. But let's keep going with bag number 9 being my Speedy P9. So the Speedy P9 got a very decent score, I must say. I was very worried that this bag was going to be in the 20s or low 30s, but it actually got a very good score. So for prestige, it got a 9, versatility, it got an 8, practicality, it got a 7, resale, it got an 8, and then iconicness, it got an 8. So for a grand total of 40 out of 50. So it's still within the top, I want to say top 7 right now. So it's still within the top 10, I want to say. I will compile the list once we go through all the bags, or hopefully ChatGPT will have a list for me. But this one I thought would do a lot better, but I'm happy that it still got a very decent score. The next two bags that ChatGPT ranked in my collection are going to be both of my Goyard pieces. And so starting off with the Belvedere PM, for prestige, it got a 9. Versatility, it got a 9, which I'm kind of surprised about just for the fact that the straps do not remove from the bag. So I don't know how versatile it could be just because you realistically can wear it either shoulder bag or crossbody if the strap is long enough for you. So very curious as to why ChatGPT ranked that as a 9. Practicality, it got an 8. Again, kind of surprised by that just because this clasp here for the closure is not the most practical, especially if your bag is not fully stuffed. So to each their own. And then resale and iconicness, it got an 8. Kind of surprised by that as well. I thought those scores would be slightly higher just because Goyard is a very sought after and iconic brand, in my opinion, as well as the resale value for these pieces are usually above retail, at least here in Canada, just because we don't have a Goyard boutique close to us. So I was quite surprised that those only received an 8. I thought there would be a 9 or a 10. However, that's neither here nor there. And so ChatGPT ranked this one 42 out of 50. So this bag has ranked better than my P9 Speedy, which is very interesting. And the Goyard Plumette, which is my wearable wallet, got a similar score. And so that one got a prestige level of 9, and same with versatility. Practicality is a 6, which I could completely agree on. And then resale and iconic value. Resale was an 8, and then iconic was a 7 for a grand total of 39. So these were about 3-point difference from one another. However, I probably would have ranked this bag slightly lower for versatility and practicality just because practicality wise, it's not that practical. It's very difficult to actually get a good amount of stuff in here and being able to close it. And then the versatility of it, sure, you can take the strap off, sure, you can have it as a crossbody. But other than that, it's not really the most versatile handbag compared to the other ones that I have in my collection. However, that is what ChatGPT's opinion is, and they are entitled to their opinion. So we only have a few more bags left. So moving on to the on the go BB. This one overall got a score of 42 with prestige and versatility being 9s and then everything else being 8. So that would be practicality, resale, and iconicness for a grand total of 42. And then the next bag, which I am very shocked about, got a very bad score with a 32, and that is my Nano Port the Documents, which is this bag right here. And this one got a prestige level of 8, versatility of 6, practicality of 5, resale of 7, and iconicness of 6. So for a total of 32 out of 50. So this one is probably around the average ranking compared to the other bags in my collection. I don't have hopes that this one is going to be in the top 7, but we never know. There have been some lower scores than this, so maybe this one might make the cut. And then moving on to the last 3 handbags in my collection, which is going to be the Keepall XS, Palm Springs Mini, and my Christopher wearable wallet. My Christopher wearable wallet if you would believe it or not, did better than my Nano Porta documents by 1 point, and it got a 33, with prestige being 8, versatility being 7, practicality being 5, resale being 7, and iconicness being 6. So I can overall agree with some of these scores. The one thing that I'm having difficulties trying to wrap my brain around how they chose the score is with the iconic status, just because I would have assumed that iconic status would be based off of the brand, or is iconic status based off of the bag itself and how recognizable it is. Probably should have clarified that, but I'm going to go with how iconic the bag silhouette is itself versus the brand. So moving on to my Palm Springs mini backpack, and that one obviously had no doubt was going to rank very high in my collection. And this one received a score of 42, with prestige, resale, and iconic value being 9, versatility being 8, which I technically don't agree with. I feel as though that one should be 10, just because you can wear this in so many different ways. And then practicality was a 7, which again, I don't necessarily agree with, just because I find this bag very practical, at least for my lifestyle. So it got a total of 42 out of 50, which is not a horrible score whatsoever. And then my last handbag in my collection is going to be my People Extra Small in reverse monogram. And this one got a very good score. It was very decent compared to the others. It's not in the 40s, unfortunately. However, it is high 30s. And so this one received a prestige value of 9, versatility of 7, practicality of 6, and then resale and iconic value of 8. So for an overall score of 38 out of 50, which is not bad whatsoever. And so the top 7 forever bags ranked by ChatGPT in my collection, with number 1 being the Pochette Accessoires, number 2 being the Speedy 30 Bandolier, number 3 being the Goyard Belvedere PM, number 4 being the On the Go BB, number 5 being the Palm Springs Mini Backpack, number 6 being the Nano Speedy, and number 7 being the P9 in size 25. So overall, ChatGPT's honest take of my collection is: you've built a collection with excellent brand power, but it leans heavy towards mini bags, which have a lower practicality score, and trend driven novelty pieces. If your goal is more forever bags, you're already close, but adding one structured classic bag, such as a capucines or one understated leather piece outside of monogram, would balance it even more. So, really appreciate that comment, ChatGPT. I know I do have a lot of monogram in my collection, so I'm gonna start to look towards adding pieces outside of classic monogram. So this was a very fun video. I absolutely loved having ChatGPT rank my collection. I didn't think some of these bags would be in the top 7. And to be honest, I didn't think bag number 1 was going to be the bag that it was. I'm so happy I was able to collaborate with Mandy and Jay on this. I will leave their videos and channels down below. If you love my channel, you're absolutely going to love theirs. So definitely go and check their videos out. And with that being said, if you like this kind of content or simply want to see more of me, then definitely hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.